So when I would go now to the next Apple store and I would buy myself the latest iPad Pro, the latest MacBook Pro, and also the latest iPhone, I would get a MacBook Pro with 2 or 4 USB Type-C ports and the headphone jack. Pretty nice, 2 Thunderbolt ports. I can just do everything with it. It's the industry standard, everything's fine. I also can use my headphones, which I just want to use with a cable, also pretty fine with the headphone jack. When I look at the iPad Pro, I will probably need a USB Type-C to Type-C cable to connect my MacBook Pro with the iPad Pro, which is just also fine because I can just switch the chargers and everything is just one ecosystem. But if I now look at the iPhone, this is just completely out of the I/O strategy from Apple. You just always just stick with Lightning port, which is just super slow, just USB 2.0 speed, no extreme fast charging capabilities like with other USB Type-C mobile phones out there, and you just don't get this adapter anymore from Lightning to headphone jack, so you just totally stick with Bluetooth or with the Lightning earpods, which you just can only use on your iPhone, not on your iPad Pro or on your MacBook Pro. So on the one hand, maybe Apple, with the next evolution, will be an iPhone with the USB Type-C, or like I use my iPhone, you just totally stick with Bluetooth, Qi charging and Wi-Fi, and you just get the job done. Here we go, and welcome to the Idea of Technology. My name is Michael, and today it's another episode of In My Humble Opinion, and it's also another episode about Apple. It's probably you ask yourself, why, Michael, you're just doing your humble opinions always about Apple, and this is now the third time. I'm totally aware of this, but you just think about that way. This company is for me really important. And I have a really big problem with their inconsistency lately, and especially when it comes to I/O strategy, for example, iPhone, iPad Pro, MacBook Pro things. I just want to make this clear. We're now here in the next video of In My Humble Opinion. I just want to tell you what it's all about and how Apple could fix this whole thing. First, I want to start with a little brief history about this. So we got this educational thing here on the internet going. When you just think back around about 15 years ago, 2003, Apple just launched their really unique 30-pin connector. I got this here because I still got this iPod Nano 6th gen. I think the 7th gen just comes with Lightning port, but I think this is the last iPod Nano generation with a 30-pin connector like I have already here. But obviously I'm not using it anymore because the 30-pin connector was really reliable and really good for this time, just considering all the other opportunities I will mention soon in this video. But it was really unique in the way that you have a lot of accessories, so Apple just licensed a lot of third-party gadgets and tools out there. For example, Bose just built a complete ecosystem with their docking stations to enhance their sound quality, which just was pretty nice at this time. So Apple just got 2003 with the iPod, and everything changed. So this complete music ecosystem, or Apple ecosystem, just started with this device, and everything just follows is just history, as you already know. This standard just lasted really long. It was just kept alive until 2014. Over 11 years with this whole standard, you just can think about if you implement somehow an ecosystem standard for connectivity, you just need to keep this alive as long as you can, because a lot of things were built around this. But 2012, there was the launch of the Lightning connector, which just made a huge change, and also a huge controversy of this time, because there was something going on in the EU. And what happened in the EU was pretty easy, because there was a lot of mobile phones like this old Nokia, and this is my emergency fallback emergency mobile phone when everything comes down to apocalypse and zombies and something like this. I don't know the model, but I have the main problem. I thought this was coming with micro USB, but this model was designed before a huge law was passed in the EU, which just banned all the different types of chargers at this time. And that was, in my opinion, a big problem because of the whole electronic waste that was generated. For example, Sony Ericsson also just split it between charging and data transfers, so you just have two connectors to your mobile phone to get your Sony Ericsson just working really well. In this time there was a really big problem because nearly every other brand or nearly every specific model from Samsung, Sony Ericsson, Nokia, whatever, comes with a really unique charger, and that was a big problem. For example, the Nokia lying in front of me had this 2-pin charger here, and if this breaks one day, I really have a bad day because I can swap it out with a USB charger I have lying around everywhere here. This was a big problem. So the EU passed a law against all the waste and against all the incompatibility between all the devices and gadgets, and there was a standard passed for micro USB, as this just place to go for charging your device and have also data transfers with this. And for example, I dropped it. Now it's dirty. For example, I got this Galaxy Note 2 here in my hands. This was just pretty ahead of its time because it's just ridiculous huge, and everyone was laughing about me because I have this huge phablet. I think Samsung called it phablet this time. 2018 would be just a normal mobile phone. This was freaking huge with a freaking lot of bezels, but anyway, it came with a micro USB port, and that was the big deal at this time because now we had Apple on the other side with the 30-pin connector and micro USB on the other side, also just capable of doing the things. But as I mentioned before, Apple just switched a little bit from the 30-pin connector to the Lightning pin connector, which was just a huge deal because with a Lightning connector it's just much smaller, you have more capabilities, it's a digital connection with a chip on it, so you just can better licensing to third parties. It's way smaller, so your devices can get smaller also. That was a huge deal, but for me that was a big downside on this point, that it's also just USB 2.0. Especially considering a time and when this came out, 2012, that USB 3.0 was already in the making, and Apple just need to wait a half a year or something like this, and that they could easily implement this standard into Lightning, but they haven't did this. They just want to get something done that is just durable, flexible, and is just easy to use for everyone out there. So we are now 6 years into it, and only the iPhone has now the Lightning connector. The MacBook Pros switched really consequent into USB Type-C, and even the iPad Pro just switched on USB Type-C for other capabilities like Thunderbolt, alternate modes, higher charging speeds whatsoever. So there are a lot of benefits of this industry standard, but Apple just took the way onto Lightning and not onto USB Type-C, which just came out a few years later, but it had more capabilities, but Apple just stick to their own standard for their own ecosystem a really long time. So we're now 6 years into it, and Apple need to consider making a change. Because with this change, as I already mentioned, you have a lot of capabilities and possibilities with USB Type-C, like alternate mode, faster charging, so on. So I think maybe Apple will just implement USB Type-C in the next iPhone, or maybe they will just get rid of everything. So with Bluetooth, Wi-Fi and Qi charging, on this level we are now here in 2018, it's just freaking awesome to use your, it's standing right there, to use your iPhone completely wireless. So I will never connect a wire to my iPhone at all when I'm just every day running around, which is just purely awesome. So in conclusion, as I already mentioned in the intro at the beginning, this is probably the worst time to buy all the latest Apple products out there, like MacBook Pro, iPad Pro, and the latest iPhone XS or something like this. Because the iPad Pro made something really special and unique this year, and they switched the Lightning port for USB Type-C for a lot of certain and really important reasons. And the MacBook Pro was, I would say, living on the bloody edge when it comes to swap all the different ports and just go for USB Type-C everywhere. Only just had the headphone jack on their devices, which is just pretty nice. This was just pretty unique and important, but the iPhone at the moment is just not worth it considering the I/O strategy from Apple. So just wait a little while and we will see if Apple just implement USB Type-C into the iPhones. Then we have a perfectly wonderful world only with USB Type-C. And if you dislike this video, you know what to do. But if you liked it, just hit like down there, get subscribed, and enable the notifications down there so you won't miss any future video of the idea of technology. And I just want to say thank you very much. Goodbye.